and welcome to the latest episode of the Get On S Rugby podcast, returning on a Six Nations Fallow week because we have some massive news. Late last night, Munster and the IRFU confirmed that Chiefs head coach Clayton McMillan will be Munster's man in charge on a 3-year deal. Across the next half an hour or so on this bonus pod, I'm going to look at the contract itself, the background of Mr. McMillan for anyone who doesn't know, the coaching setup, his record at the Chiefs, and we also had some big news as well this morning with Felix Jones back to the box, which just came out as I was about to hit record, so we will get to that as well. Just going to read over the kind of the bones of the press release to start things off. It was quite a lengthy one, lots of comments, David Humphreys, Ian Costello in there, a lot of people very happy with this, of course Mr. McMillan as well. So it starts by telling us that Clayton McMillan has been appointed as provincial head coach on a 3-year contract, which we will take up in July upon the completion of the 2025 Super Rugby season, which of course finishes the same time as the URC this year. McMillan joins the province from his role as head coach of the New Zealand Super Rugby side, the Chiefs. He's a wealth of coaching experience over the past 20 years and has led the Chiefs to 3 Super Rugby finals in 4 seasons, as well as a semi-final, since he was appointed head coach of the Hamilton outfit back in 2021. McMillan, of course, some people may remember, was head coach of the Maori All Blacks for a short period. He was head coach of New Zealand Provincial Barbarians when they took on the Lions in 2017, and of the All Blacks 15 when they took on Munster. I think I've a picture of that I will use as the background for this show, and it's a very exciting move for Munster. People you speak to in New Zealand rate him very highly as being up there alongside Razor as the 2 best coaches in New Zealand at the moment, and you really can't ask for any more than that, to be honest. Like, you've got a stellar appointment in McMillan, and I think Munster should be absolutely chuffed. Along with that, Ian Costello is going to move from head of rugby operations to team general manager. Any of my other NFL aficionado listeners, I believe Ian Costello could be the next Harry Roseman. We'll wait and see on that one. In terms of the ability to sign and recruit and bring through players. No rugby draft though, however. While Mike Prendergast will now assume the role of senior coach, which does have an IRFU leaning in there. It is believed that they are looking to put in the same structures across the 4 provinces over the next few years, head coach and senior coach. It is also said that head coaches and senior coaches are paid for directly by the RFU. They do a lot of those kind of hires, so no bad thing there. The McMillan, when you read into it, it's a very vast array of experience. I wrote a piece for the Limerick Voice yesterday just on this hire, and like he kind of ticks every box. Like the Chiefs, like in his 4 seasons, like we're only 2 games into Super Rugby at the moment at the time of recording for 2025. But in the last 4 seasons, 3 Super Rugby finals after Warren Gatlin's poor year preceding that. He had 1 semi-final loss to the Crusaders as well. They finished in 2023 before Nank and John Ryan joined Munster with just 1 loss across the 14 regular season games. They were pipped in the final in the end by Razor's Crusaders, but they have been absolutely stunning as a team to watch. Similar in certain ways to Munster in terms of they got this 10 they can build around, very tough pack. They want to play an expansive brand of rugby, and from a culture point of view, I think that's the thing that really stands out. Every interview you listen to, and I'm sure lots of Munster fans will be listening to them over the next few days, he is big on culture, is Clayton McMillan. And you know, I've only had 1 short dealing with them at the New Zealand XV game back in November, and he seemed fine. He's a huge man. He could still tug out. I think that's the one thing about this Munster coaching ticket. Between himself and Dennis Leamy, you've got 2/3 of a back row. I don't think they do Masters rugby the same way they do like Masters football and Masters hurling for over 35s, I think it is. But those lads, they still have something in the legs, that's for sure. But very big on culture, on the kind of intangible natures. In that instance, he spoke so highly of Limerick, the hospitality of the people of Limerick that week, because they came into Ireland very early in the week, probably because they wanted to be up in the northern hemisphere and acclimatise in case the New Zealand senior team needed them. And he spoke so highly about it. He loved the atmosphere. He loved the experience. I did not expect him to take on this role. He was someone who I thought, you know what, this is a good coach, but he was contracted to 2026. You never really expect anyone to take up the job then. But for the RFU and Munster to lure him out of his contract, it's a bold move. It's a bold appointment. It's the type that we've obviously seen at Leinster with Lancaster and Nienaber. We haven't really seen elsewhere aside from Rassie Erasmus at Munster. And even at that, Rassie's name before he joined Munster and now very, very different. He was highly respected then, but not to the same degree he is now, as you can imagine. And we'll get on to Rassie a little bit later on. And just my overall thoughts are basically just this. I think this is a terrific hire for Munster. I think they've got a brilliant coaching staff there. Ian Costello is the perfect man for the job. I spoke to people. I was at the Senior Cup school Senior Cup semi-final the other day. Everyone speaks so highly about Ian Costello. Mike Prendergast, one of the best attack coaches in Northern Hemisphere rugby. Dennis Leamy has been a terrific coach for Munster as defence coach. I think McMillan will come in there. He has a forwards focus. He will need to adapt, of course, to this kind of Northern Hemisphere style. But to be fair to the Chiefs, they have been a very punchy team. From what I understand, I don't watch a lot of Super Rugby. Don't take anything I say as gospel on them. But it's a really good coaching group that Munster have now put together. You know, they have gotten 3 superb coaches. They've got a brilliant, back of house guy. They got Mossy Lawler there as skills coach. There is reports of Collie Hooker coming in as well. Munster have not been afraid to do their business, and there was so much talk about are Munster almost essentially doing their business right? Are they going about it the right way? And for me, I think you take as long as you need. Like for the departure of Graham Rowntree, and Graham Rowntree will always be a Munster legend for what he did in Cape Town with Munster, bringing them to EuroC final, bring them to the promised land of winning a trophy again. He will always be remembered for that. For it to end in the circumstance it did, mid-season, actually the week before McMillan and New Zealand arrived into town, or the week of, I should say, it was sizable news. It was, a big shake-up. I think Ian Costello was the perfect man to guide them through that period because he is that kind of calm, pretty, not laissez-faire. He's obviously very, ruthless at other parts of his job, but a very calming influence, not a very, angry type, a very calm, reassuring type of person, and a very intelligent man. And Munster took their time. Ian Flanagan put out a press release back in January. I think it was kind of a State of the Nation type thing that you do every year, to be fair. And he spoke about, they will take as long as it needs. The first I heard of this was yesterday, if I'm entirely honest. I had heard 2 weeks ago that Munster had it ready to go. I'm not sure how true that was now, because this name wasn't really known. When I've tried to check up on it, it wasn't really heard. Like, some people only found out this week, as from what I'm hearing. So, and it speaks to Munster's hiring process that they can go and get this massive, big name coach, and it only comes out the morning that the Chiefs are about to announce it. I think that says an awful lot about Munster and, stuff not getting out in happy camp, because you can look at, Premier League clubs, for example, that's kind of the epitome of, well, if they're unhappy, you're going to hear it back in the news, aren't you? And that's absolutely not been the case here. It would be understandable if Munster were kind of this, not a hot mess, because that's way too far, but it'd be understandable if there was this element of kind of doubt and all that around Munster, but absolutely not. That's not been the case. They got the best man possible. I believe that. I don't think, barring managing to lower a coach involved at test level out of test rugby, I don't know if there's anyone else they could have got. Yes, there is talk of maybe Felix Jones. That was always going to be bandied about, but that never looked likely. It was always more likely he'd end up with the RFU, and again, we'll touch on that a little bit later on. So to get McMillan with a year left in his contract, with how good he's doing with the Chiefs, already looking like one of the Super Rugby favourites after the first 2 rounds, hammered the Crusaders last week. And for any Munster fans listening, they played the Brumbies at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. And the Brumbies are also expected to lose a coach to Ireland, with their attack coach set to go to Connacht. So just a word of warning, record that one. Very hard to watch rugby at 3 o'clock in the morning, speaking from experience. So that it's a very good hire. It's a very good hire. It's a very good coaching staff. Munster have signed well this season. I spoke about this in the Red Army podcast recently, that you can't say Munster lack the depth and give out about the depth. They've signed very good players that they mightn't all be established number ones in terms of starts, but they're going to be thereabouts, and that's what you want to see. So, and obviously, I have to give him a shout out. Clayton McMillan, former coach of Alex Nankerville, and John Ryan. John Ryan has done some incredible hiring for Munster now, between McMillan and Nankerville since his time down in New Zealand. So, like, I just think that Munster should be in a very happy situation, or very happy position with all of this. I think they've got the best man for the job. They have got they got a great coaching staff. They got a great group around them. I think that's all that you can ask for. There's not much I can say about McMillan that you won't be able to find very easily. He's involved with plenty, Maori All Blacks, New Zealand XV, New Zealand provincial side. He's worked his way up. Former policeman, actually, which I did see referenced in the press release as well, which gave me a small bit of a chuckle. But yeah, no, definitely a top hire for Munster. What he's done with the Chiefs, like, you have to remember with Super Rugby, obviously New Zealand teams dominate, but the Crusaders have been so dominant. So when he got there, the Crusaders still had another 3 titles to win on the bounce, 21, 22 and 23. If I'm right, lost them in 2 of those finals, lost them in a semi-final as well. But like, that was a top, I need to stop saying top. That was one of the best Super Rugby teams we've seen in terms of their level of dominance. To come in when the Chiefs had gone 9 straight losses under Warren Gatland, get to a final in the condensed season of 2021 when Gatland was on sabbatical. Obviously, he would end up taking the Wales job not too long afterwards, of course, but he got them to the final his first year, semi-final, final the 2 years after, and yeah, they were pretty comfortably beaten by the Blues last year, and they weren't as strong of a team as they were the year before. But that's still, no mean achievement. 3 finals in 4 years and a semi-final. That's the level of consistency Munster want to be at. They want to be getting over the line, but they want to be a beacon of consistency as well. So it just, again, it all speaks to his resume. His resume is very, very strong. It's the type of appointment that I have said the provinces and the RFU need to be making. I've made no bones about that. I've no issues with that. I think it's like, nothing against Irish coaches, and Irish coaches should get Irish jobs as much as possible. But if you had a situation where 3 of the 4 provinces, and this is nothing against Mike Prendergast, who was highly skilled, one of the best coaches in the Northern Hemisphere, but if you had a situation where Mike Prendergast, Pete Wilkins and Richie Murphy, all first-time head coaches in 3 of the provinces, and then obviously Leinster of Jacques Nienaber, again, it just opens that question about the optics and the, because everyone knows that the RFU do the hiring and firing of head coaches. They are in charge of that. So I think the fact that Jacques Nienaber is a senior coach, assistant coach, whatever, at Leinster, he's not head coach, but you know what I mean. So I think the fact that Munster have gone and got a big name hire after Leinster have done so, you'd hope that Connacht or Ulster, their next move, will get a big hire as well and show that David Humphreys is keen on closing that gap. And these are the moves I want to see. It's the same with, central contracts and things like that. That's exactly what I want from the RFU. I want to see them help close the gap. And I'm not going to bring it into being a kind of, political economy debate here on the show, but moves like this are brilliant. On that coaching team, I think Munster fans should be very happy with what they have there. I think it is one of the deepest coaching setups. Ian Costello is, like, for all the talk we see about, say, Guy Easterby at Leinster, Ian Costello is everywhere as good as him. Munster have signed so well. The academy has been so well run since he came back. I don't think you can look at that and just say that they're not mutually exclusive. They have to be, at least in some degree. Granted, Johan did a lot of good work with the academy that that gets undersold. People think because he didn't give a lot of academy minutes to year 1 or year 2 players that he obviously didn't care, but he brought through Gavin Coombs, Alex Candellin, the Wycherleys, or maybe not both Wycherleys, but Josh Wycherley anyway, Craig Casey, guys like this who have been so important to Munster in recent years, even the likes of Shane Daly to a slightly less degree because he was a bit older, but he would have got his first runs out through Johan van Graan, or Van Graan even. So that's what Munster want to be at. They want to be up there with the Leinsters. We get told that it's the people in charge. It's not the finances or demographics. It's the people. Well, Munster now have the people. They're not a poor club. They're not the richest in the league or in Europe, but they're not a poor club. So I think that and a move like this shows that they have a massive statement of intent to double down on this group that they have. Like, it's a very strong group of talent. You don't get to a URC final and semi-final in the last 2 years if you don't have it. Because as we've seen even with Ulster, for instance, when it looked like they were ready to kick on, they couldn't. It's a competitive league. So, brilliant there. Dennis Leamby's defence. Yes, it's had creaks. All defensive systems do creak at times. But he's a brilliant coach. When he left Leinster, it was definitely seen as a big loss for them. So he's not much else to say. He could still slot into a coaching group or into a back row alongside Clayton McMillan. You never know. Could see it. Maybe there'll be some sort of a tag tournament or something with the two of them. And Mike Prendergast, as I said, he's one of the best attacking coaches in the Northern Hemisphere. Attack is an infinitely difficult job, attack coach, because defences have just gotten so strong in rugby these days. The kicking game is overpowered at the moment. The line out is so important now. You could have the best scrum in the world, you might have a great attack off it because there's a good defence, or the scrum isn't as important, and so on. But he's done a fantastic job at Munster. They're not the team they used to be. They're a much more potent side. They're much more, maybe not as efficient. I think that's a power deficit thing though, more than it is his work. But then you look at the players he signed, like Alex Nankivell, Diarmaid Kilgallen, Takir Abrahams, Calvin Nash has come on leaps and bounds, like incredibly. Tom Farrell, another big name signing who you almost forget about because he wasn't the marquee signing, but he's been a superb signing. And I think with McMillan, the other side of bringing in a big name coach, and I was going to say bring in other names that I'd heard, but maybe it wouldn't be the most professional thing to do. But with any big name coach that you bring in, they will have a certain lure about them because people know how good they are, how talented they are. Like whether that's like even Jacques Nienaber at Leinster, Toulouse are bigger than Ugo Molla, but Ugo Molla is a factor there. To bring in Clayton McMillan, and obviously again Munster are a huge club, they're bigger than McMillan, but he will have a certain lure, especially New Zealanders who might be looking to leave New Zealand. They might be saying, no, I'm going to pause the All Blacks dream and go up north. This will be a factor. I think all in all, brilliant hire from Munster. I know we're only just under 20 minutes, a little bit shorter than I would have imagined, but just a terrific move, and I think you'd expect Munster over the next 2 years to be kicking on in some regard. And just as I say this, some breaking news out of the IRFU today, in that Peter O'Mahony, Conor Murray and Cian Healy have all called time on their Irish careers. No real surprise there. At the conclusion of the Guinness Men's Six Nations Championship at the end of the month. We will talk about that maybe a little bit more. I might just get into a little bit first, just one by one. For me, the three best players Ireland have ever had in those positions, at flanker, at loose head prop, and at scrum half, and there's no debate. There's absolutely no debate on that one. Obviously, growing up a Munster fan, to see Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray retiring is, again, one of those moments that makes you feel a little bit old. I remember where I was watching Conor Murray win his Irish debut against France all those years ago, back in 2011. It's hard to believe now. I remember Peter O'Mahony's European debut which might have been slightly overshadowed because it was the day the Ron O'Gara dropped goal against Northampton. And Cian Healy, what more can you say? I think the biggest compliment I can give Cian Healy is a quote that pundits used about, or not a quote, a line pundits used about Tom Brady, where they used to say, well, with Tom, if you split his career in two, you still have an unbelievable career. Cian Healy has that. If you split his career into where that major injury was, I think it was his neck at the time, you have two unbelievable careers. Won Heineken Cups in the first end, won Six Nations titles in the back end. Maybe gets another Heineken Cup, we'll wait and see, but certainly three stalwarts of the Irish game. Peter O'Mahony, the only Centurion back rower that Ireland has ever had. And I don't think that that's something that you can look at and not give him praise for. You'll always see, is he too old? Is he this? Is he that? But no, it's absolutely phenomenal career. And for Conor Murray, Ireland's best scrum half ever. And I will use this platform now to say I think Conor Murray is a top 5 Irish player of all time. And I don't think that should be even remotely controversial. I will have to hop off in just a minute because I will have some messages and tweets and all that to send, but a thank you to those lads as an Irish rugby fan, as someone who's had the pleasure of watching them for the last 15 years, 16 in Cian Healy's sense, which is remarkable. It will be interesting. It does say in green. It'll be interesting to see if they stay on for another year with their clubs. There was a report of Peter O'Mahony staying on and with Cian Healy potentially staying on. So we'll wait and see on that one. Just finally, Felix Jones is gone back to the box. 1 second now. There's been another apologies. Oh, it actually has said that Conor Murray will pursue a playing opportunity abroad following the conclusion of his Munster contract in July, which with Cian Healy and Peter O'Mahony retiring. I actually missed that bit the first time I read it. So that is also quite something. Best of luck to Conor on that one. Be interesting to see where he goes. He was linked with France and with England in the past. So the very best of luck to him. And again, just to come back into the room for a second, Felix Jones come back to the box. Massive hire. Like anyone Razzie wants, Razzie gets, which I think is just testament to him, isn't it? It's he's just so good at hiring, and even just getting the best out of his players as well. It all says so much. I think from an Irish rugby point of view, not to have lured Felix Jones in is disappointing. He's someone I would have thought, hand him the lines, offer as soon as possible, and basically make it known that there's a job here in the IRFU if you want it. The fact he's gone back to the box is not a bad decision. It's not even remotely a wrong decision, because they will be competing for the next World Cup. But it's certainly a disappointing one. I spoke to Johnny Holland before about, and we came up to the topic of Felix, who we would have worked with during his time at Munster, and he thought this guy is just everything you want from a coach or player, just from a professionalism point of view. The box clearly loved that, very clearly. You don't bring back someone who had departed for no reason, and it's not that the box are struggling, it's anything but that. So best of luck to Felix and to South Africa. Best of luck to Conor Murray and Cian Healy, Peter O'Mahony and Cian Healy on life after rugby, and Conor Murray on life abroad, and to his family, to Joanna and to their little one. And best of luck to Clayton McMillan. Very somber note to leave things, but we will leave it at that. As always, if you like what you see here and want to join us for our unrivaled Six Nations coverage, please do subscribe on all good platforms. You can find the links for my channels below. We'll be back next week to preview Ireland against France in a deciding Six Nations / Peter O'Mahony, Conor Murray and Cian Healy's last home game for Ireland, should they all feature, which is, that's an end of an era in and of itself. But for now, again, thank you so much for listening. Take it easy.